My name is Charlie Lyons-Pardue. I'm the dad of two girls. When people ask me what it is I do, that can be a bit of a challenge to describe, but I'm a creative Swiss Army knife. "15 years ago, I graduated from Point Loma, and now I work there. And I work doing kind of two things for our chapel team. I do video production and then creative arts, working with student artists and interns. And a lot of the work that I do is stuff I was frustrated about when I was a student there 15 years ago, sitting in chapel, looking at the chapel stage and thinking, nobody put any intentionality into the aesthetics of this place. You know, we come here to worship, to tell the story of Jesus, to proclaim the good news, and we do it in really ugly, unintentional spaces. And as somebody who's been an artist and been creative my whole life, it's just stuff that it wasn't background noise for me. It wasn't irrelevant. It mattered that the awkward band shell that was on the stage never lined up right, or that these slats in the ceiling, two of them were missing. I literally remember sitting in chapel thinking, why has nobody done anything about that? Or does that bother anybody else? And so now my role is to put time and intentionality and thought into things like the visual aesthetics of the places that we worship in. And so we build a set design for our chapel that's kind of connected to the theme of the year. I produce graphic design with our student interns. We work on kind of essentially branding so that there is a cohesive art direction for everything that we do. And then on the video production side, we're not just recording chapel audio to cassette tapes, but we're doing a multi-camera setup and live streaming chapel to YouTube. And the video production side of things really benefit from the kind of visual aesthetics side of things, because when you start to put things on camera, it also matters if there's something visually pleasing behind the speaker, and it's not just misaligned beige band shells and those kind of things. It's kind of interesting to me that I have made this job out of the frustrations that I had, the kind of creative frustrations. Somebody saw fit to also put time and resources into that, and so now I'm not just a person sitting in seats thinking, well, I don't like the way this looks, or I wish somebody. I'm the person who is now I have the pressure of making things look good and kind of being a part of the answer and not just the frustration. When I started at Point Loma, I came into the job with some creative and artistic strengths, but there are a lot of things that need creative attention that I wasn't an expert in. And so I've had to really learn that stuff on the job. And so just kind of thinking about, again, being like this Swiss Army knife, that I'm not just going to be an expert in kind of one field, but I got to learn lots of things. I got to learn to be competent in lots of things. I have friends who are filmmakers or graphic designers who are killing it and are fantastic in those fields. But I just see myself as this generalist. I got to be good at lots and lots of things to kind of remain useful and relevant in these contexts. But it's really cool to see the interns that I work with also begin to pick up these skills. Students who maybe they've never used a miter saw before, or power tools, and those things seem dangerous and scary, but being able to kind of mentor and teach them, here's how we use these tools safely. You can do this, and to see them learn those skills, learn those tools, and the confidence that comes with them, and what that opens up. A lot of them are artists, and for them to see, oh, I can do this. Well, if I can use this tool, what could I do with that in the future? And in a lot of ways, that translates to being a dad too. I mean, I did not come home from the hospital with my little baby girl with, a degree in counseling. I was not a trained paramedic. There are just so many different roles you have to play as a dad that it's on the job training. There weren't classes where you kind of learned all this stuff, but having the confidence to know, like, I can figure this out. I'm gonna learn this. I'm gonna become competent at these different things to be a good father. I think is a pretty essential part of being a dad, because you just don't have the option to check out, or, well, if I'm not the best at that, why would I put energy into that? And in the same way, we could probably all look at friends who are parents and say, gosh, that friend is so good at this one thing. The same way that I have a friend who's a filmmaker who's so amazing. But I think it's our job to be competent at lots of stuff. We don't have to be the best at all these things. But I'm really looking forward to, passing on some of these kind of creative things to my kids, and getting to the point where I'm also teaching them to learn how to use tools. I think in a lot of ways there's this, this reluctance. Why would you ever give your child something dangerous? And, I've seen my students know the power of a tool and the danger that comes with it, but also rise to that occasion and say, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to become competent at it. And I'm really looking forward to some of those stages with my girls too, to the kind of mentoring and some of those aspects that, again, is something that I've kind of learned in my other role. I think for me, the confidence I can trace back to my parents. Certainly my dad's a rancher, and on the ranch there were so many problems that he had to solve, or to figure out some kind of innovative way to invent something to solve a problem, whether that was building a contraption that would help him build fences better and stronger, or just so many random things when you're running a ranch that you got to know how to do, you got to be competent at. And so seeing him do that and having him pass on so many of those skills, it became something that I think I began to believe in my own ability to figure stuff out, or my own ability to work with my hands, and to have kind of like a physical intelligence of knowing how things work, or just having the confidence that I could figure out how things worked. And then for my mom, definitely the love of learning itself. She's a teacher, and it just always instilled in me that education is not just about getting a bigger paycheck, that we learn for the sake of learning itself, that the pursuit of knowledge is good and valuable in and of itself, and that we should constantly be striving for learning new things, for being curious about the world. And so in a lot of ways, those two things really just come together in the fact that a lot of times there is a problem that needs to be solved, and you're going to have to learn something, a new skill, in order to be able to come up with a solution for that problem. And so you go on an educational journey, and that can look like these days it can be watching YouTube videos and tutorials, and you can kind of access in a lot of ways the skills that some people might get through like an apprenticeship through the internet. I've learned a lot of woodworking through YouTube videos, honestly. But then a lot of times it's just, well, now I just want to know more about that. Not because I have a project that demands that right now, but it's fascinating and I'm curious about it. And so I want to know more about that. So that kind of, I think, environment growing up really shaped who I am and the way I approach those kind of things. And so now I'm certainly, I've got a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, just trying to be really in tune with what are they super into, what are they gifted at, how can I encourage that. My oldest is a voracious reader. It is crazy. And so we're constantly giving her new books to read, kind of pushing limits. Oh, you can read chapter books. Can you read a chapter book like this? And so just trying to be that encourager, but just continue to give her more and more kind of a push to continue to develop those skills. She also loves to draw, which makes my heart happy, that to see the kind of like artistic skills that she has. And so just giving her every opportunity to do that, giving her lots of encouragement. It's really fun to be able to do art together. I mean, sometimes I've been painting in the garage, and we'll set up her little easel, and she'll like to paint next to me. And so it's fun to kind of be able to connect on some of those artistic levels. And then with my 1-year-old, a lot of it is just being ready and figuring out as those things kind of emerge, and not trying to put her in the exact same box as her older sister. It seems like she might be interested in reading, but she also can't talk yet, so who knows. But I think, it's all part of the journey, discovering who they are, who they're going to be, and how we can encourage them. But I think for both of them, certainly those lessons that I grew up with about the value of education, about learning and discovery being a good goal in and of itself, not just because there's some kind of like reward. I think those are things that I really want to pass on to my girls.